do about 200 million nets a year, a little more than that going out. Nets last 3 years. And the other thing that we've added recently are CHWs, which are community health workers. Then the last part is surveillance. When you get polio down to zero, you need surveillance to say, yes, it is indeed gone. What we found, and there are some breakthroughs here we've done recently, that we need surveillance to show that malaria is also gone. That's part of what has surprised me in the last few months, that we have the means, the mechanisms to get to zero, and that's community health workers. So we're doing a program here to sponsor a community health worker for $1,000 to train and equip them for a couple of years. More on that in a minute. The plus for malaria is that we train community health workers to do diarrhea, to prevent diarrhea or treat it when it's there, to do pneumonia, to do COVID prevention, pass out PPEs, do water sanitation, nutrition, deworming, and the like. What has been the real surprise, literally in the last few months, is that we put together breakthroughs. Nets were a breakthrough because nets took malaria from killing 1 million people a year down by a dramatic amount. But we stopped progress. And what happened is that community health workers, I should write that out, were seen when they were specially trained in malaria to take malaria down to very low levels in Zambia. And then in the last few years over in Timor-Leste, which was a country that was the result of a civil war back in the year 2000, Rotarians in Australia have taken malaria to zero. And I thought they had just gotten it to zero and were working about that, but I interviewed the leader of that campaign, Rotarian Dr. Jenny Carrison, and she said, oh, we got it to zero in July of 2017, and we've had no domestic transfer of malaria. The other breakthrough was, I would say, even more shocking than knowing how to do it, how to take malaria to zero, which we'd been working on for years. The Rotary Foundation came to the Rotarian Malaria Works groups looking for the next Polio Plus. John Huco, the general manager, asked us if we would set the stage for the next Polio Plus. By set the stage is have methods at work, partner with the various groups, World Health Organization, the Gates Foundation, and others, which we already do. And then it wasn't just an idle request. The program of scale, the new program where Rotary Foundation has given $2 million of its own, no matching funds, no nothing. It just gave $2 million, went to malaria, and that just was announced very recently. That's with the Rotarian Malaria Partners, now known as Malaria Partners International. I'm on their board, and they're focused in Zambia. So what we decided to do, RAM Global is the coordinator of RAM Australia. We interact with them, the Malaria Partners International, and all of the other countries. So we're going to put together a moonshot to scale up the community health workers. And the moonshot is, I call it a moonshot because it's a really big goal, but by 2030, we're going to take Asia Pacific to zero and take the Americas to zero. Now, that's not very far to go, but it is a long path to go. The lead in Asia Pacific is RAM Australia, which has already been active there. We formed RAM, I formed RAM with the Rotarians from Australia at the 1994 convention in Taipei. They've done amazing work over the past decades, and Timor-Leste is down to zero. Papua New Guinea is a global, the best program in the world, many would say. And there's an Asia Pacific Malaria Leaders Association that is raising funds for that. We've got a great leader in India, so we have country by country groups in RAM Global to lead that. In the Americas, there are foundations leading that. Bill and Melinda Gates, the Carlos Slim Foundation, and the goal there is to get to zero. They already have a pretty orchestrated campaigns. They do not have many Rotarians involved there. One of our goals is to get Rotarians involved. Asia Pacific and the Americas don't have that much malaria, but Africa does. So the real breakthrough of Zambia having a program of scale winning that grant and training up community health workers has gotten malaria to zero. We have another grant going in Uganda, training 1,250 community health workers. The Gambia is in process, so is Senegal, Liberia. We generally work with the national malaria programs, WHO, and so many others. So what we do are direct sponsorship of grants and global grants. We've set up a fund to participate, engage people. You can donate and sponsor a community health worker at the Illinois Prairie Community Foundation. We had a non-Rotarian seed fund that with $5,000. And this is the first time I've asked people for money. And we have another non-Rotarian kicked in $10,000, and then some Rotarians kicked in some money. So we've already got $20-some thousand there. The District 6490 has as its goal, I hope the president the chair is nodding there, a goal of raising $100,000 to support community health workers to sponsor them in this coming year. And we're putting that challenge out to other districts. So that's enough for malaria right now. We've had several breakthroughs. We're going to take it on as a grant, as a big project. We hope to be the lead partner on some global grants and coordinate that. For more information, go to ram-global.org. In a couple days, our website will be up. Join RAM Global, and there will be more information on sponsorship there. I'm happy to have some questions, maybe either now or after Heather is there. But I want to be very respectful of time.
Does anybody have any immediate questions?
This is Tom Hodson. Did I see something in the news in the last few days about a vaccination for malaria? And
yes,
could you talk about that?
A big breakthrough is there's a new vaccine. It's been proven with 450 kids to be 77% effective. We've been shooting for 75+% for years and years and years. And now there is a vaccine that's been proven. It's only phase 2 trials, so they'll be getting some more. So let's take a step back and look at COVID. What does a vaccine do for COVID? COVID vaccines keep you from dying from COVID, generally speaking. What does a vaccine do for malaria? Keeps you from dying from malaria, and it's really effective. It's very, very helpful. What our goal is to take malaria to zero. So we have to eliminate it from the human reservoir. So the vaccine is especially important because it provides the means to take malaria deaths to zero, giving the community more energy and more momentum to take all of malaria to zero. So thank you for asking. Yes, that was a very exciting breakthrough. I should put that on the breakthrough page.
Good.
I want to hear about Mexico too. So there may be other questions, but I want to hear about this Mexico program, Heart to Heart. Want me to Heather?
Can you stop sharing your screen?
I shall stop share. Bingo. There we are.
And let me try and share mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come on.
Yeah. There's so much great stuff going on in malaria and in Rotary wide. I want to hear about.
Okay. What I'll be talking about today is a program called Heart to Heart, and this was a trip that I was able to make in November of 2019. It's really a cooperative effort that began back in 2004, and the district governors from our zone got together and decided in honor of Rotary's 100th anniversary in 2005 that they would sponsor a joint project. So we are located in zones 31. We're up here in District 6490. The heart of Mexico includes 4170, which is the brown area, and that's where Mexico City is located, and the red area is where Guadalajara is located. And so these are primarily the two districts that we have worked with on global and humanitarian grants. And it all began with a simple water tank. That was the very first project that happened, and that began with a donation to a community and then started spreading to schools and villages all over the Mexico City area. All of the areas of focus come into play when we're working on the grants in Mexico. The majority of these are global grants. I was not able to participate in the peace building program there, but the Rotaractors in Mexico have taken a wonderful lead in promoting peace within their neighborhoods. And so they're working on things like domestic violence shelters, on gender programs, on food insecurity, on trying to work with government to make it less corrupt. The maternal and child health programs, we visited a cleft palate program and watched and met children who had had their cleft lips repaired. We went into a hospital where Project Cure works, and that's a nonprofit out of Colorado that donates medical equipment to hospitals based on inventories that they do. The very first day that we were there, we got to see a water and sanitation project. We went to an elementary school where they dedicated new bathrooms. Disease prevention and treatment. I'll show you a slide of non-global grant, but one of the major programs is working with kidney transplant and harvesting programs in Mexico. There was a basic education and literacy program that we saw where they were working with students, teaching them Montessori methods. And then we saw an excellent example of community and economic development. And that was with the addition of a bread and tortilla factory in a small village, and they were able to feed children breakfast once they started this factory. They had been feeding kids for 12 years as a Rotary Club and found it was unsustainable. So by putting this bread and tortilla factory into place, then they had a way to make money and to employ people from the community and to fund their program. This is an example of one of the programs that is not a global grant. And what I'm talking about today with the 100 and 100, excuse me. The 100 and 100 is a club-to-club program. The other areas of focus that we've talked about with the global grants have been funded with district designated funds, but these 100 and 100 programs are club-to-club. And this gentleman that you see in the far right-hand corner is Richard St. Denis. He's an American who was injured in a skiing accident. He was named a CNN Hero of the Year. And he has put together this wheelchair access program in Mexico. And we were able to go to a disabilities fair and watch people come in to have their wheelchairs repaired or to be fitted for new wheelchairs. And it's estimated that 100,000 people in Mexico need wheelchairs. The very first 100 and 100 project that was approved in our district is with KZ and a Cancun club, and they will be providing 30 wheelchairs to young adults and adults for mobility assistance in the Cancun area. We have done lots of global grants with Mexico City, but over the years you build up relationships with people, and we realized that Mexico was very short on having PPE. And so districts in 6170, 6540, and 6780 got together and they sent over 3,000 masks to people in Mexico City. So this was an example of club-to-club relationships. We're looking at building relationships. And this is something that started in 2004 and continues to present day, that districts and clubs and individuals can participate regardless of size. There are opportunities to work together year round. There are multiple options in the areas of focus. And we've found that this is not just a one-time, one project partnership. And when I talked earlier about friendship, this is really what it involves. It's becoming friends with others in the US and in Mexico. So this 100 and 100 project is a special program for this year. On April 1st of this year, Mexico celebrated 100 years in Rotary. And so we put together this opportunity to invite clubs to match with a club in Mexico. The projects range in size from $500 to $10,000. And this goes throughout the country of Mexico. It's not just in the 2 primary districts that we've worked with. They also work with Rotaractors and Interactors, and it includes all of the areas of focus. Plus, we're looking at some construction projects, some safety projects, solar panels, and wheelchairs. And wheelchairs in the solar panels construction are normally outside what we could do with global grants. So this is an opportunity to develop club-to-club connections through service. The way to find out more about Heart to Heart and to find out more about the 100 and 100 program is to go to the Rotary Zones 3031 and click on News. The Heart to Heart is one page and the 100 and 100 is a second page. So if your club decides that they would like to participate in a 100 and 100 project, you can find out what those projects are, what's available. And so you'll go down to the bottom right-hand corner of that page and you'll click on this Excel spreadsheet and you'll see a listing of the area of focus, the amount of money that it would cost for a US club to participate. You'll see the host club and district. They'll say whether it's a Rotaract or Interact project. And then they'll tell you the project name and give you a brief description. And if you keep going out to the right, then it would tell you who the US grant coordinator is, and you need to contact that person first rather than the club. So we've got 2 other projects that have been approved so far. One is in the Guadalajara area. Champaign, Rantoul, and Paris have gone in together to fund that project. And that's to help women with some cooking skills, some sewing skills, and some mechanical and electrical skills so that they can then have those as jobs and support themselves and their families. The other project that has been approved is between the Decatur Club and Coatzacoalcos, and Coatzacoalcos is going to be adding drinking fountains to schools. So they also have an Interact Club, and our Interact Club will be trying to connect with their students as well. So an opportunity to share language skills between the 2 of them. In November, we will be hopefully having our annual trip to Mexico. It will be November 2nd through the 10th. Primarily, we will be looking at the global grant projects, but unlike past trips, we'll be going beyond Mexico City. So we'll originally fly into Mexico City, go to Cuernavaca to see the kidney transplant program, go back to Mexico City. If people don't want to stay the entire time, they can come home from Mexico City, or the rest of us will go to Guadalajara and we'll be able to see the projects in Guadalajara. Typically, the Mexico City projects are not hands-on projects, but there are more opportunities to participate as a hands-on project in Guadalajara. So part of the time we'll be doing some sightseeing there. We'll get to see Tlaquepaque, which is a wonderful area for restaurants and crafts. So it's not all work, and I can guarantee that the Mexicans know how to have a party. And so it's a good trip. And I hope that if you're interested in joining us, that you'll let us know about that. But primarily, if your clubs would like to do a 100 and 100 project, I'd be happy to do a program for you. Many of the amounts are larger than one club can handle. And so there are other clubs in the district that are willing to pool funds so that we can do that. Does anybody have any questions on that? Very quiet.
So,
We've got-
Heather, can we get a copy of that slide?
The last one?
Yes, with all the programs on it. Yeah.
Probably the best thing is to go to the RI Zones 3031 page
Okay.
because there are 5 or 6 pages of listings of projects that are available.
Okay, thank you.
And Guadalajara, we have friends in Guadalajara. My wife teaches there, and we'd like to support those projects. You said there are 3 clubs that are already active there. We'd help with if Norma wanted to join that. So I'll check with that.
Okay, that sounds great. The funding is finished for that, but there are other projects in that area. And so what happens is that we will set up conference call or a Zoom call, and we'll have interpreters so we can communicate about those too. So
I'd just like to throw in, I've been on the trip in November of 19 and also on the medical mission in February of 2020. And it's a great experience. The hands-on work is just amazing. And the Mexico City portion of the trip is quite inspiring when you see the different projects, the kidney transplant project. It's just, the whole thing is just, it's one of those Rotary moments that everybody should experience.
thank you. We are now closing our breakout rooms.
Hey, Heather, can I ask real quick, what is the cost of the trip and typically how many people are in the group on the trip?
We had 31 people last time and it's less than $2,000 a person. So usually a bus load and a couple thousand max, and really very little expense outside of your a few meals. Breakfast is taken care of. The Mexicans entertain you most of the time. In fact, you're so stuffed, you're embarrassed when another meal appears before you. So we have 18 seconds. And if you have any more questions, let me know.
Let's just see
Thanks,
lots of
Drake.
people
Thanks,
there,
Heather.
'cause it's a great experience.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Oh, yeah, that's terrific. Thank you for participating.
We'll see you soon.
Should I record this one? I didn't record the first one. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You look really good, but you're muted, Heather.
We'll try that again.
Okay.
Yes, if you would record, that would be great. And I forgot to start recording at the beginning, so we have an abbreviated session from the first time.
There we go. So after I talk, now that probably is a good strategy. There we go. We got Rick and Richard. Oh, this is good.
Good to see you again, Drake.
Yeah, good seeing you, Rick. Yeah, we haven't been able to do habitat houses here.
No, and I missed that, I'll have to tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do they have a dedication plan for the Bloomington one?
Is it up there yet? I don't know.
I think they still have hours to finish before.
Yeah, they have a very few. They've repaired all the damage that we inflicted on that. I'm just speaking for my part. You fixed most of it while we were still there.
Good time.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, I miss seeing you and Joe and the rest of the people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know when they're going to open up Habitat again. I'm sort of busy with the malaria stuff, so it's like, oh boy.
I'm interested in that too, Drake.
Okay. Well, you're in Daybreak, and we tried to make this participate in RAM Global as a small enough donation that a few Rotarians individually could get together and sponsor a community health worker.
How much is that?
$1,000 sponsors to train and equip them for 2 years. And that is, they train them in all of the basics on malaria. And we found that while there are a lot of community health workers out there, until we train them and then equip them on malaria with test strips, dipsticks, they call them rapid diagnostic tests. And the equipment includes that diagnostic equipment plus the treatments. But on top of it, it's rain slickers because they're out in the rainy season, and boots. So we are literally providing boots on the ground for these community health workers. They're doing 2,000 some with this program of scale. They've just got a global grant that's underway. They're about to train 1,088, then another 2,000 starting this fall. And then they have more going into Uganda and other places. In Timor-Leste, I won't get to that much of the program as people come in. They've been able to take malaria to 0 and keep it there. So that's a huge breakthrough. So even as early as recently as 6 months ago, I was saying, no, we really ought not go for 0 or the next polio plus, because we really can't get there. But lo and behold, bang, we get these breakthroughs. And then Rotary goes and asks us with the program of scale, saying they gave the program of scale to malaria. Program of scale is the first time Rotary's given $2 million unilaterally to a cause, and it went to the Seattle Club for work in Zambia to train up community health workers because they've dropped malaria so dramatically. So we're building on that program. So you train up a community health worker and you help this whole group of people over the course of a couple of years. So this is better than teaching them to fish, teaching them to take care of their own communities. It's really kicking. Oh, so Heather, we've got a few people in here.
I think so. It looks to me like everybody has now been assigned to a breakout room. So this is great. We can start our formal program. Let me start with Drake and give you a little bit of background about Drake. He joined the Normal Rotary Club in 1983. He was president in 1990 and 91. In 1993, he started the Malaria Project, which developed into Rotarians Against Malaria, or RAM Global, the Rotary Action Group on Malaria. And he is the chair. So this is a pretty neat accomplishment for Drake, and especially for our district to have the head of a Rotary Action Group as one of our members. In our district, he was voted Rotarian of the Year in 1996 in Hall of Honor. He's been active on global grants since the 1990s, and that's where I first met Drake. He served as the district foundation officer, and he's pretty good at raising money. In his day job, he works with financial services. So we're going to let him talk about malaria.
All right. Well, I have like 5 screens or maybe fewer, and I've got my timer set here. So I'm sharing the screen, and this should be it. So does this do it? And I bring the screen over here. So, yes. Oh, nope, that's not it. There's a new program for eliminating malaria that we're building on, and that's a WHO thing. This is more like it. RAM Global is a Rotary Action Group. Rotary Action Groups there were fellowships in the original day, like the beekeepers have a fellowship. I'm a beekeeper. And the action groups, when we were going after diseases, we lobbied Rotary Foundation and Rotary International to set up an action group, because really we're going after a cause that's much more serious than wine drinking and other fellowships. So they set up RAM Global, or Rotary Action Group. We set up RAM Global, which was based on the work where we had joined work from 1994. Australians and I got together, and the reason we went after malaria was polio. So we base everything on polio. Our goal generally is to eradicate malaria from the earth, built on polio. We used the Rotary model for polio and adapted it to malaria. Polio plus was a program of mass social mobilization, logistics, and surveillance, saying how do you get everybody vaccinated? Mass social mobilization. Gee, we know that pretty keenly with our current local activities on COVID. Logistics, we know about the cold chain. One of those vaccines that we had to be 80 below Celsius or something for a while. The vaccine for polio needs to be cold. And then surveillance. They asked, when do we know that it's gone? And then they added plus. Since you're going out and vaccinating everybody, you add other vaccines. And then they started adding vaccine-like inputs, such as vitamin A. And lo and behold, in 2002, we added mosquito nets. So Rotarians were active in proving up that mosquito nets actually work. And then we literally did the program of scale for mosquito nets in 2002 on, and we scaled up how to use mosquito nets. When I say scale, it's you do a pilot project, a little project, then you do say multiple districts, and then you do a full country, then you do a multi-country. And that's, we're in that full country phase for good old, oh, my screen sharing is paused. No, or is it?
It is.
It is. Well, let me go stop share and then share again. Here we go. What happened here? There we go. Let's share. Sorry. And so with malaria, we've taken the mass social, is that back up? Good.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're 3 minutes in. Mass social mobilization, we did nets, and we have been very active with that. Logistics, we got more nets and we got them better used. CHW stands for community health workers. Most of the African countries have community health workers, volunteers, or sometimes lowly paid people who go around to their community and help out. And then we've started surveillance. We've only recently gotten malaria to zero. And the big question is, how do you get it to zero? That was plaguing us for a while, and then some innovations got it. The community health workers got it to zero. So that led to us sponsor a community health worker for zero. The plus for malaria is that we train them up on how to deal with diarrhea, pneumonia, COVID, of course, water and sanitation, nutrition, whatever that community happens to need. The breakthroughs that we have, why are we doing malaria now? Because we know that nets work, but the big breakthrough were both the community health workers, we could take it to zero, and vaccines. Community health workers take malaria to low levels in Zambia. That's a big breakthrough because malaria is just permeating the communities there. But in Timor-Leste, community health workers have taken malaria to zero. And I just found out about 3 weeks ago that it went to zero in 2017, and they've kept it there. There are a couple other breakthroughs. One is vaccines. There's a new vaccine that's coming out. That's really on the horizon. It's a few years out. But for us as Rotarians, the Rotary Foundation came to the malaria folks, say, we Rotarians, the Rotary Foundation and Rotary International are looking for malaria, or please set up the process so we can vote malaria the next polio plus. We were rather floored by that. This wasn't just an idle request by Rotary Foundation. It was, they also gave the first program of scale. The first time Rotary has given $2 million to anything was in this competitive grant program, and it went to malaria. See the Rotarian magazine this week, it just came out. Page 29 explains the program of scale. And then the other thing that we have here is the RAM Global, which is coordinating the Rotarians around the world. And we have something really concrete to do. So I've been calling it the moonshot. The moonshot is to take malaria to zero in Asia Pacific and the Americas by 2030. It's really low and we can get it to absolutely to zero by those years. Then in Africa, we'll get it down to where we can take it to zero shortly after 2030. In some countries, including a couple listed here, the Gambia should be at zero by 2025 or 2028, and Senegal and possibly even Liberia. We work with partners. Over in Asia Pacific, we've learned, as elsewhere, that if we don't get it to zero, it will come back. Sri Lanka was the classic case. They had 27 cases in the late 60s, and that blossomed up to 500,000 cases. If shortly after that. Now they've got it back down to 0. So if you don't get to 0 and it's Rotarians that can drive it to 0, you're not going to take it anywhere, or it's just going to come back. So we really, really need it to get to 0. Fortunately, there are other organizations like the WHO who've declared that. I happened to click on the eradication plan or the elimination proving plan. APPLMA, which is the Asia Pacific Malaria Leaders Association. And over in the Americas, there are similar foundations. In Africa, there's the WHO, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Vision. Now we're in size. We work with a lot of other organizations to take it to 0. Why malaria is important is because malaria, if you don't knock it out, it debilitates the whole community. If you do knock it out, it sets the stage. It is a platform for the plus to go on to everything else. So we have grants that we're doing. An individual club or even individuals can sponsor a community health worker. It only takes $1,000 to train them. So we've had a few people go together to sponsor one. We have the normal club has kicked in a few $1,000s. We have 5 already that we're sponsoring. And then the district is sponsoring a challenge to other districts. We are raising $100,000 that we will challenge other districts so we can sponsor at least 100 community health workers. We have private donors who say we're going to pass $100,000 that we raise. And then we'll use the usual global grants and other things as we get the Rotary money there. We've already set up a fund to collect the funds over at the Illinois Prairie Community Foundation, the RAM Global Fund. So if someone wants to contribute there, you go to illinoisprairie.org or call them or just contact me. Our website is about done, so come next Wednesday, sign up to join RAM Global. We'll have that on the new website, www.ram-global.org. We'll be educating Rotarians really around the world from there. I've used my time. Thank you very much. Over to Heather. And we'll have questions later on. Feel free to contact me. I will put my address in the chat box, so you'll be able to have that. Good to see you guys. All right, over to Heather.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Drake. Can everyone see my PowerPoint okay?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, so what I'll be talking about is a club-to-club initiative today. Heart to Heart started in 2004, and it was a partnership between districts 4170 and 4140 in the heart of Mexico. So here we are up in 6490, so we're in zones 30 and 31, and zone 30 is part of Heart of America. So these are all of the districts that are working with the zones in Mexico. The primary zones that we work with are 4170, which is where Mexico City is located, and 4140, and they're a relatively new partner with Heart to Heart, but this is where Guadalajara is located. The initial project started in 2004, and it was when the district governors from the 2 countries got together and decided that in honor of Rotary International's 100th anniversary in 2005, they would start with a community water project. So from simple beginnings of 1 tank in 1 community, we have completed over 70 humanitarian and global grants totaling over $5 million. The global grants work in all of the areas of focus. In 2019, I joined 31 Rotarians from our zones who went to Mexico City and got to see some of our projects in action. I did not see the peace building projects while I was there, but I've been on some Zoom calls and talked to some Rotaractors who are very involved with this, and they are working on food insecurity, on domestic violence programs, working with local governments to try and stop corruption. So it's a pretty neat initiative working on all of the pillars of peace. The Maternal and Child Health Project, we were able to see some children who were receiving cleft palate care. We also saw recipients of health equipment donated by Project Cure. The Mexican hospitals will do an inventory of what they need, and this not-for-profit in the US will gather equipment from hospitals or clinics or medical suppliers and send it to Mexico. The very first day, we toured an elementary school's new bathroom, which was really a fun experience. The kids were excited. The parents did a terrific program for us. We also went outside of Mexico City one day and saw a community and economic development project. This small Rotary Club had been feeding breakfast to children for 12 years and realized that it was unsustainable. They didn't have the funds to continue to do that. So they wrote this global grant and had a bread and tortilla factory funded. And so they employed people from the village to make the bread and tortilla, and they used the funds then to feed children breakfast. We also saw a Montessori lesson that uses our basic education and literacy. And one of the premier programs of Heart to Heart is a kidney transplant and harvesting program. So that's an ongoing program that's been super successful. What I wanted to talk about with this is really a club-to-club initiative. And this is outside of global grants. The gentleman you see in the lower right-hand corner is Richard St. Denis. He's an American who was injured in a skiing accident and is now in a wheelchair. And he started this program in Mexico to bring wheelchairs to people who need them. They estimate that 100,000 people in Mexico need wheelchairs. So while we were there in November, we attended a disabilities fair, and people could come and have their wheelchairs repaired, or they could be fitted for a new wheelchair. The very first 100 in 100 project that we have had in our district was with the KZ Club, and they are working with the Cancun Club. This is club to club now, and they are providing 30 wheelchairs for people in the Cancun area. When I talked about the theme of friendship, I think it's very apparent when you begin to work with people in Mexico. You've made friends with people there. You've made friends and you work outside of the global grants. You are helping with humanitarian needs. So District 6170, 6540, and 6780 sent over 3,000 masks, the PPE, to Mexico City when COVID first began. It really is all about building relationships. Districts, clubs, individuals can participate regardless of the size of the club or the district, any time of the year, multiple areas of focus, and it becomes more than just a one-time partnership, one-time project. It is a connection with US Rotarians meeting other US Rotarians and Mexican Rotarians, and it works out really well. This 100 in 100 project is a special program just for this year. On April 1st, Mexico celebrated 100 years of being in Rotary, and so we have 100 opportunities for 100 US clubs. The projects range in size from $500 to $10,000, and typically we work just within the heart of Mexico, but this is for clubs throughout the country. The projects engage Rotaractors and interactors, and they go beyond the areas of focus. So they include construction, safety projects, solar panels, and wheelchairs. And this is the opportunity to develop club-to-club connections. The way to find out about Heart to Heart is to go to the Rotary International Zones 3031 website. This first page is on Heart to Heart in general. And then the second page deals with the 100 in 100 program. So when you click on the second page, you'll get instructions on or information about how the projects were developed and instructions on how to participate. And in the lower right-hand corner, there's a Excel spreadsheet that you can click on. And it will show you all of the club to club projects that are available. Anything that's in green has already been chosen, but we divide them up into areas of focus. We tell you how much the project will cost, the name of the home club, a project name, and then a description about the project. And further off to the right on this page that you can't see on my screenshot, it gives you the name of the US host. So we ask you not to contact the clubs directly. This page was last updated in March. So we need to make sure that we have the most current list. We put these requests in back in starting in 2018 and 19. So the dollar amount may have changed slightly based on exchange rate and conditions. So we need to verify all of that before we say that a project is chosen. Once a project is chosen, it's really fun. We will set up a Zoom meeting with members of the Mexican club. We have an interpreter and we have members of the US club. So we've now got 3 projects from our district that have been approved. The first one is the Casey project for wheelchairs. Champaign, Rantoul, and Paris have all gone together on funding to work with a project in Guadalajara area. And that is to offer classes to women in culinary skills, in electronics and mechanics, and also in sewing, so that those women will then have those classes and be able to have jobs and support themselves. And the last project that we have set up is with Coatzacoalcos and Decatur, and that is to put drinking fountains into schools. So it's really a neat opportunity to connect one-on-one with another club. And Decatur's getting our Interact Club connected with Coatzacoalcos' Internet Club. And the last thing that I'd like to ask that you consider is a trip to Mexico this November. We will be flying into Mexico City. We'll be touring some of the global grant sites in Mexico City. We'll be going to Cuernavaca to see the kidney transplant program, back to Mexico City. And if people don't want to stay the whole time, they can come back to the US. And then the rest of us will continue on to Guadalajara. And Guadalajara tends to be more hands-on types of projects than what happens in Mexico City. So if you would like to participate in that, we'd love to have you. Guadalajara has a really neat community called Tlaquepaque. That's an artisan area with lots of great restaurants. So we also have, in addition to seeing the work that we do, we also have a lot of fun. And I can assure you that the Mexicans like to party and know how to party. And it's about $2,000 a person, includes your transportation, your meals, your hotels. So I guess I'm getting a message from Jane that our breakout sessions will be closing. Does anybody have any last minute questions?
Not a question, but a certain comment. And this deals with RAM and so forth. It's not just the malaria, but the secondary thing on diarrhea. That's probably the #1 throughout the world. And to actually get ancillary results because of the focus on malaria is really a great benefit for the entire community.
Thank you. Yes, we'll be putting several pluses up, plus deworming, plus the other vaccines that we put in. There's a vaccine for diarrheal diseases now, and treating diarrheal diseases. So plus all the COVID work. Thank you, Hank. I appreciate that support.